Hi, I'm Rikard Aberg, and this is Poker Therapy with Andy Black. The subject of today's episode is really one decision at a time, or as we put it, one shot at a time, in honor of our special guest. Ken Doherty was a world snooker champion in 1997. He's Irish, like Andy, and he will be doing a 5-minute speed coaching episode with Andy, followed by a discussion of his wisdom of that kind of topic, one shot at a time. Now, many of the qualities required to become a great snooker player is kind of similar to the ones you need to become a good poker player. Isn't that so, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, Ken, we've known each other a very long time, and he was a serious poker player for a while. He actually opened up a club, and a lot of the big name snooker players, they all played poker. And at the time it was clear, they still play now, but they were playing on the scene. At the time it was clear that what a similarity there was between these two sports. In a way, they're more similar than maybe, it's kind of darts, golf, snooker, poker. They feel like they're sort of part of some kind of family in a way. And Ken, bizarrely, there's a coincidence that he actually won the World Snooker Championship whenever the World Poker Championship was actually a few months earlier. So they were on pretty much at the same time. So when I was on the last two tables with Stu Younger, Ken was busy beating maybe the greatest player of all time at that time, Stephen Hendry, in the final of the World Snooker Championship. And the theme today is really all about trying to get a sense of what it's like for someone that great to actually just focus on one decision at a time. How do they do that, And in a way, we're experimenting with trying a mixture of a bit of speed coaching and then a bit of talking to someone afterwards. So you get a combination of those two things. And like in poker, in snooker, Ken is still competing. He's still competing at the highest level. And a lot of poker players, we have that opportunity as well. So there's also a join with that. For that guy who's a businessman, who's retired, who's a bit older like me as a poker player, we need to do different things to sort of almost recapture our youth. But unlike in something like football, it's absolutely possible, because even though your body is a little bit weaker, the difference isn't so big. So I'm very excited to have Ken on the show. He is personally one of the nicest people I've ever met in terms of being able to be himself, which is just a lovely, happy, engaged man, full of wisdom and full of humility. So it's a treasure for us here on Poker Therapy to have him on the show. And it feels a bit funny to even do 5 minutes of coaching with him. But hey, there's the breaks.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, obviously we're looking forward to it a lot, listening to him, but also listening to you, and see that poker players and snooker players might not be that different. Here's Ken Doherty.
So now we're going straight away to a short session of a bit of speed coaching with the 1997 World Snooker Championship, Ken Doherty. So Ken, when you won the World Snooker Championship in 97, were runner-up the year afterwards, what did you do then that maybe you're trying to replicate or meet now?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, the beginning of the run up to the World Championship was not very good for me. I was having a really bad season, and I was going to the World Championship, sort of trying to hold on to my top 16 place. So the first round was so important to win that against a guy called Mark Davis. And because being in the top 16 was so important for seeding and qualifying, you didn't have to qualify. It's a different structure now, of course. But so my first match, wasn't really thinking about the World Championship at all. I was just thinking about winning that first match, guaranteeing my top 16 for the following year. And I managed to beat Mark Davis 10-8. And all of a sudden, a weight sort of lifted off me for some reason. You know, I felt a lot looser, a lot more relaxed. I played Steve Davis in the next round, who had beaten me 6-1 in the Irish Masters. He beat me 6-1 in the Masters in London only a couple of months before. And I beat him 13-3 with a session to spare. And that gave me an incredible confidence and calmness for the rest of the tournament. I beat John Higgins in the quarterfinals, 13-9. I beat Elaine Robbie-Deal with a session to spare, 17-7 in the semi-finals. And then, of course, I was playing Stephen Hendry in the final, who had won in 92, 93, 94, 95 and 96.
In the 90s.
Yeah, he'd won it. He was going for 6 in a row, which he'd won 29 matches in a row at the Crucible. It was almost playing him on his own table, you know, and he was so difficult to beat. He was so dominant. But the funny thing is, my psychology was that I'd seen players playing before in previous years, and they almost seemed very intimidated by him, like almost rabbit in a headlight sort of stuff, you know. And I was very determined not to give off that persona. I knew it was a great opportunity for me. I knew I was playing the greatest player of our era, and possibly the greatest player that ever lived, apart from Ronnie O'Sullivan, who came on much later. But I just wanted to, yeah.
Would it be true to say then, because this comes up a lot, that you were sort of almost more yourself than maybe you'd ever been playing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I got into a sort of, I developed a psychology that I was going to go out with a smile on my face.
Which is what you're like.
I wasn't, yeah, exactly. But I wasn't going to be intimidated. I wasn't going to be trying. I was going to go out and say, well, look, if he beats me, he beats me. But this is a great opportunity. Relax. Give off a persona that you're confident and not show any sort of intimidation whatsoever. And the funny thing, it helped me relax, and it sort of upset him a little bit, you know, and it got him a little bit sort of irritated. He started to miss a few of the long shots. He started to get a little bit sort of annoyed with himself. And I was just as calm as anything, you know, just nice and relaxed. I got into that sort of state, a beautiful state of mind that most snooker players would love to get. And, you know, you would love to have sort of bottled it, you know, replicated it over the years. But it's very, very hard to do, yeah.
So, I mean, in a sense, you've asked your own question. If you were trying to bring that yourselfness, which is smiling and happy and relaxed, to the next tournament you're playing in, which is the Saudi Arabian Masters on Friday, what's the plan to kind of connect with that?
I think the plan is obviously, you know, I'm a different person than I was back then, you know, but I think the psychology still remains the same. That you have to go out and relax and enjoy it as best you can. I think as you get older, though, the problem is that you get a little bit more nervous.
Stop you there. Don't say you have to go out. Can you put it in a way where this is what I'm going to do? Because it's one step. So say the same thing again. We're going to finish this up now. And then this will be the last thought ringing in your head as you strike the first ball in Saudi Arabia. How would you put that? But you're saying, I am going to.
I've always tried to and have the same philosophy as go out, laugh, enjoy it, smile, and play snooker as if it means nothing, as if you're practicing, when it really means everything. I think that's the ideal sort of scenario.
Right. And you know, I know you pretty well. We've known each other a long time, and that's actually who you are.
That is me.
So I think, if you bring that with you to Saudi Arabia, then, you know, that might give you a better chance of doing well. And beating Jimmy White in the first round.
The great Jimmy White. Yeah, I've been playing him. The first time I played him was in 1991, would you believe, you know?
Oh my God.
34 years ago. Yeah, we've been playing each other ever since. So, I'm looking forward to it, I must say.
Enjoy it. Thanks so much, Ken.
All right, right, that was a very interesting talk, and here you talk about your experience in snooker and this question, speed coaching, of course. How was that for you, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I always love talking about it and going back to that trying to state of mind. And I mean, they were my best years, that through from 97 onwards till 2003 or 4. I got to the final back in 2003. So that sort of period was really good for me, It was sort of a really sort of happy period for me.
Yeah, but as you said, you're also still playing this weekend
Yeah.
with the big names, of course, of today
Yeah.
and so on. So one has to wonder how you stay in there and you can still kind of compete anyway with the really big names, can you?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about it is now is that I still love the game, I'm a lot older than I was back then. Like, that's almost 30 years ago now when I won the World Championship, 1997. But my love for the game and my passion for the game has never died, You're trying to, you sort of get a little bit busy as you get a bit older, and you can't practice as much as you used to. It become like a couple of hours a day is probably enough practice now, whereas before, like, I was doing like 6-7 hours a day. I couldn't do that now. I wouldn't be able to. My body can't do that. But so you're trying to concise your practice a little bit and make the most out of it, a shorter pace of time, and manage your time a little bit better. I think that's very, very important in any sport,
Yeah, of course. And we all, of course, find similarities with poker, which also
Yeah.
a sport where you can do it even if you're a bit older, if you can't practice as much and
Yeah.
keep the concentration maybe at the same level.
I think the concentration is so important, for both poker and snooker. I think they have a lot of affinities with each other, and I think that's why a lot of snooker players like to play poker, because they can relate to it and they can relax. They can get their heart racing a little bit. They can try and cope under pressure, when the big decisions have to be made. And it's just like being out on the snooker table, whether you go or you play safe or, you take a chance, it's very, very similar.
But I think Andy worked out that to win a golf major, for example, is 270 shots for a weekend, and main events in about 2,000 hands over 2 weeks. And
Wow.
an estimation, there's 5,000 shots over 2 weeks in a snooker tournament. So,
Yeah.
so I was wondering, how do you, create the mind that is able to take one shot at a time? Back so many years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, it's all sort of memory, like just your memory of shots. It's the big shots that sort of stay in the memory. And it's not the ones that you pot, it's always the ones that you miss that stick in your memory even more, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's similar to poker, the hands that you might have lost, not the hands that you won. Where you got the bad beats. Everybody talks about the bad beats. They very rarely talk about the good beats when it's the same with snooker. But it's about clearing your mind, I think, is very important. That even though you suffer bad beats at poker, but you suffer a bit of bad luck at snooker, you miss a few balls, you're always going to miss balls. You have to erase it very, very quickly. It's the speed of recovery of the mind is very, very important. Clear your mind and then go again. And I think all the top players over the years have been able to cope with that a lot better. Some players, if they miss a ball, particularly an important one, cost them the frame, it can sort of hurt them for the next couple of frames. They can't get rid of it out of their mind, and they sort of their standard drops. Whereas the great players are able to erase it, start a new game fresh, and then just go on. And I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, I studied a little bit from the Crucible in 1997, of course, which was Stephen Hendry's, your opponents in the final.
Yeah.
There, his home ground in a way after winning so many years.
Yeah.
And you came there, and there was such a feeling of stillness amongst both the players and the crowd, which is snooker. Would you say, is it meditative in a way to be in that kind of environment?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah, I think a lot of it, you have to remain very, very calm. Snooker is one of the toughest sports in the world because, for one reason, is that when your opponent is playing, you cannot do anything about it until he finishes playing. You cannot hit a shot back like in tennis. In golf, you have your own ball. It doesn't matter what the other guys are doing. In football, you can tackle a player. In tennis, you can hit the ball back over the net.
Yeah.
In snooker, you just have to be so patient,
Yeah.
and you have to meditate a lot in that chair to keep your concentration and say,
Yeah.
well, okay, he's at the table at the moment, but when I get my chance, I'm going to try and keep him in his chair for as long as possible.
I know Andy was into that first time I met him in the early 2000s, that he practiced on the poker table. Would you say, did you learn from someone, or did you just get there on your own to find the meditation in that chair? Because I'm always amazed when you just sit there.
Yeah.
Play like that.
You're just like straight
Did you learn
faced.
from someone?
No, I think it's just something that you develop. I think it comes from your personality, that you're able to just be calm and relax and not give too much motion away when you're sitting in that chair. I think some players, you'll see them, the great Alex Higgins, he couldn't sit still in the chair. He was always, smoking. He had a vodka in his hand and he was always shaking. He was twitching, but snooker players today, they're a little bit more calm. They look after their bodies a little bit more. They sort of meditate. They get coaching. They get mental coaching, and it's a lot more beneficial. I think a lot of the players are sort of exercising that now, whereas back in the 70s and 80s, it was like down to the pub, a few pints, and a few cigarettes.
The one question I want to ask you just after listening to that, and I feel that say you manage your life differently. You've got less practice, as you say, and you're in a way you're a bit wiser. But the thing which a lot of amateur poker players or older poker players struggle with is something they don't notice, which is the same for anyone who gets older, is we sometimes lack an intensity of youth. And
Yes.
we lack a beginner's mind. However much, as you say, we love the game.
Yes.
How would you encourage yourself or give thoughts to other people as to how they get more of that intensity and beginner's mind after they've been doing something for so long?
Yeah. I think, as I come in here now to this snooker academy here in Sheffield, and I see 10 Chinese lads, and they come in here from 10 o'clock in the morning till they leave at 6 in the evening, They don't have intensity. I think what they could do is manage their time. I was like them when I was their age, 30 years ago. And I could come into the snooker club and stay all day. I can't do that now. But I understand now about concising your time and using it more wisely, more intensive, as you say. Because I think if you concise your time and manage your time better, you could get more done in a shorter space of time that would be more beneficial than spending 6 or 8 hours where, a lot of that, your concentration is not there in any way, because you cannot concentrate for 8 hours in a row. It's just impossible. The body doesn't work like that. But if you can concise your time, use it wisely, and I think it'd be more beneficial.
Yeah, I think many sports, poker is, snooker obviously, and usually tennis as well, is very individual. So I was playing with the thought that, let's say you were back at your age when you started to practice really hard. Were there any bits that you coach people to do to maybe avoid? And you mentioned it just now, what you should do instead. Can you develop that just slightly?
Absolutely. What I would say, even to these lads here, is come in, practice a little bit on your own, for half an hour, just get your cue action, play it like a match against another guy, like a best of 9 or a best of 11, and then leave it there. And then, do something else with your time. Go out, get some fresh air, do some exercise. These lads don't do any exercise. They don't go to the gym. They don't look after their bodies. They get takeaway food. They come in and have their lunch in here as well. Go out, eat more properly, and energize your time better as well, and look after your body better. And I think if you do that, you will your mind will be better. You'll be more positive. You'll have a better concentration, and you'll feel better about yourself. You won't be lethargic.
Yeah, it's the small details
Yes.
that are easy to just think that they don't matter, but they
They
accumulate.
do. Of
They
course they do.
accumulate, and I mean, I'd say, that's a big thing to take out of this. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also that I know from modern poker players today, it's very important for them to have not maybe a mentor, but also a friend or
Yes.
someone that knows
Yeah,
them
yeah.
so well. And I think
Yeah.
that was lacking in golf, for example.
Yes.
You need someone that can tell you the stuff that you need to hear.
Yeah.
Isn't that important, Ken?
That's very, very, very important. I've always had somebody with me over the years, someone that when you got back into the dressing room, that you can sort of release a little bit of that sort of the build up of the tension, that you can talk about certain shots or, that you missed or you got, and but also you need that encouragement. You need someone, a bounce back, a sounding board. It's very, very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. No, it was excellent to hear your thoughts, Ken, and maybe do see some similarities between many other sports and of course your sport, snooker. Will you play some more poker further down the road here?
I was playing last night in a cash game here in Sheffield. I lost 200 quid. I wasn't happy. I made some bad decisions. I need some coaching.
I hope Stephen Hendry didn't get it.
No, he wasn't there. No. Oh, he never takes. I always take money off him, and I tell you what, his pound is worth 5 of anybody else's. I know.
That's good. Well, it was great to talk to you, and maybe we do some more speed coaching in the future when it comes to, maybe you can coach us a bit, and maybe Andy can coach you a bit when it comes to the poker.
A little bit of quid pro quo. I'll give you some snooker lessons. You give me some poker lessons.
That's a good plan.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Pleasure talking to you.
Well, that was really interesting to hear Ken Doherty's thoughts about his early years, and also that he's still going. Andy, that's pretty impressive, wouldn't you say?
Well, it's so interesting because as I was listening to him, I really got a sense of when he evoked how he became world champion. So it's almost like as he entered the tournament. So anyone who's listening to this, just imagine yourself in this situation and add on your own details. But, as he entered, he was struggling. He wasn't doing well. He was having a really tough time. And, he sort of mucked his way through the first game. He managed to get through the first game, and that gave him a bit of confidence. He had a tough draw. I mean, the players he was playing, Higgins and Robbie Dew, I think Davis, it was a bit of a nightmare draw. But he absolutely killed them. And what was interesting as he spoke about it is you could feel Ken emerging. Now, I know Ken pretty well over the years. And, we played a lot, we hung out a bit, and he's, everyone who's ever met Ken knows that whenever the cameras come along, whenever he's under pressure, he's the same guy. He's very positive. He's very friendly. He's very generous with his time. He's got lots of humility. He always has a laugh. And as he was describing that, I really felt that he was actually becoming Ken Doherty as he started to play well. I mean, how fascinating is that? And what that did was that allowed him to relax, allowed him to enjoy himself. And he even said, and I think this is really worth thinking about, is when you're actually yourself and relaxed, the other players, even the greats, find it quite intimidating. And I know myself, when other players are kind of relaxing themselves against me, I'm going, oh, this guy's going to be tough. So he managed to actually to do that, which is incredible. And then now that he's years later and he's still competing, what's fascinating is that to try and reconnect to that kind of energy still requires support, someone to talk to. It still requires remembering what he has to do. It requires managing his energy, as he said, his resources. So every single one of the themes that Ken Doherty brought up is something that's useful for other people. And hearing it from someone like Ken Doherty, who's been to the top of the mountain, is something which is just fantastic.
Yeah, indeed it was. I found that very interesting to see how he said about Stephen Hendry there, that when he said that he was kind of losing his patience, he just stayed there or even became even calmer. And that's something you recognize from the table as well. You just become really, and that must be very annoying for Stephen Hendry at that final there, to see Doherty just being, calm and nice.
Well, I mean,
cool.
For those of us that really followed snooker closely in the 90s, Stephen Hendry won, as he said, he'd won six world championships. I think, was it back-to-back years? And he was going for his 7th in a row or something ridiculous like that, maybe 5 going for 6. And again, if you met Stephen Hendry, he's like an ice man. He's almost, well, even when he does his commentary now, you don't feel much emotion in him. So he, maybe it's bubbling away inside, but you don't feel like he's difficult to intimidate. And the only way to intimidate the great players is somehow, paradoxically, not to do something weird or something like that, is if they see you being yourself at ease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there it is.
This comes out of, yes, all the practice, the hard work, etc., but it is also a choice to remain yourself. And it's something that, people maybe don't focus enough on.
There is. Excellent episode, and that's all we have for this week. Special thanks, of course, to our guest Ken Doherty. As we said, we would love to have him back maybe sometime further down the road. Poker Therapy wishes a good week, and this is the place where everyone is a winner.
And well done, everybody.
Bye.
Hey!